Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. A guy from our first story is a social hypochondriac who loves to tell stories about rage. The angrier he gets, the better the story. The catch is he can never know that being angry makes him happy, or he'll never truly be happy again. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. The only time I wanted a baby to keep crying on an airplane. Right as soon as we got on the plane, I knew this guy was going to be trouble. Let's call him Paul. Paul was blocking the walkway, having half his body in the aisle, rearranging his backpack for whatever reason, when no one was next to him and he could have just done this in his seat. No big deal. I just wait for him to be done. Then Paul insists on me walking around him, which with him being half in the aisle, makes it quite hard. My body brushes up against his body, which made him mad even though he told me to go through. Of course, everyone else is trying to board the plane as well and are running into the same issue, and Paul's taking his sweet, sweet time. Whatever. My boyfriend and I got the row right behind him and sat down awaiting the plane to take off. Next offense is when someone's trying to put their bag in the overhead bin and Paul goes ape crap. Starts yelling at this woman that there's glass in his bag and that she can't put her luggage there. She calmly tells Paul that this space is for everyone and she needs to put her bag there as there's no more room in the other compartments. Paul's wife doesn't think the woman's getting the point, so they start yelling how they're custom wine glasses and that she cannot put her bags there. I was giving this woman props. She stood on the seat to gently rearrange things and kept her calm the entire time, despite being yelled at. Of course, this was not good enough for Paul and his wife, who kept muttering under their breath about how stupid she was and that she was going to ruin their glasses. When we finally get in the air, the baby 1 row behind me, 2 rows behind Paul, starts crying. The baby wasn't even crying 30 seconds before Paul decides to yell, "Give that kid a bottle!" The parents obviously ignore this and calm down their child within a minute or so. Now, throughout the flight, the baby cried a couple more times, each time lasting no longer than 3 minutes. A very good baby. Paul, however, was not pleased, and each time the baby cried, he'd turn around and give the parents the stink eye, then get up and walk around. I kept hoping the baby would cry just so he'd have to listen to it. I'm a very shy person, so I wasn't about to confront him, and my boyfriend, who is in the seat behind him, had his headphones on and wasn't aware of what was going on. So I hatch a plan for my petty revenge, to make his plane ride as unpleasant as possible. What'd I do? I clued in my boyfriend on the situation and had him join my cause. He opened and shut the tray table multiple times for his laptop. He sat with his knees in Paul's seat. He kept putting his water bottle in the pocket behind the seat and taking it out. I kept accidentally hitting his seat when I would go to cross my legs. I turned my AC on full blast and pointed it his way. I ate my chips as loud and slow as possible. I coughed multiple times very loudly. All of this would make Paul stare at us and then complain to his wife. "I hope your custom wine glasses broke, a-hole." If Paul was so worried about his wine glasses, he should have put them under his seat. And our second story. Can't do anything without a medical reason. A few years ago, I worked under a terrible boss whom I shall call Tiff because of all her tiffs. Unfortunately, I'm not exaggerating when I say terrible. She had HIPAA violations on her record, edit, see note, writing people up for stuff that she told them to do, writing them up for things that happened when they weren't there, changing people's schedules with no notice, and then getting them in trouble when they didn't show up for the changed schedule, trying to write people up for using FMLA. The general yelling and petty bullying bad managers do, the works. Senior management knew about all this and aided and abetted her. Anyways, after being hauled into a meeting with her and a senior manager where she lied about me and did her best to paint me as lazy and a generally terrible worker, I'd had enough. I went to the other senior manager, who shall be called Spineless for reasons you can probably guess, and told him that I couldn't deal with this anymore and I had to be transferred to another department in the store. I had experience in a few other areas which were in high demand, so it wouldn't be hard to find a place for me. It would just be hard to fill my spot in the bakery, especially given it was late in the year and we were always incredibly busy over the holidays. Spineless said no. Well, actually, he said that he'd see what he could do, but it wasn't likely to happen because I was too important to the bakery to lose. I pointed out that it was so stressful that it was affecting my health and I really couldn't continue. If I had to, I was going to be calling out. He still said no. We can't do anything unless you have a medical condition. Now I see. I knew what he actually meant was that there was no way in hell that we were actually doing anything, so I should just shut up already. Unfortunately for him, I don't like subtext like that, and I didn't feel like dealing with the mistreatment anymore. So I sat there for a moment, debating and deciding to give him what he needed. See, I have a few medical issues that are annoying, but unless they're actually keeping me from doing my work, I think it's kind of a cop-out to bring them up. But under these circumstances, management was being completely unreasonable, so cop-outs it was. So I explained that I had an official diagnosis of anxiety, and due to reasons above, I couldn't work under her. Spineless kinda stopped and looked at me, then said, okay, we'll see what we can do, but we'll need you to at least get through the holidays. I told him I'd do my best, but I couldn't handle the constant threats of write-ups, so he'd have to keep her from enacting any disciplinary measures against me. He said sure. I also added that I really didn't want anyone else knowing about my anxiety, as I don't like my personal life being spread about. About a month later, something else happens where a bunch of cakes were ruined and I was the last one who touched it. They were someone else's responsibility as soon as I was done with them. The other person just hadn't done their part, and Tiff was trying to get me in trouble however she could. Tiff hands me a write-up to sign. I'm furious, but I carefully write down in the comments section that I have a medical condition interfering with my work, which I had already notified senior management of. Then I insist on having her give me a photocopy of it, which they're supposed to do, but often don't. I heard from the supervisor, who was also present, that when she saw what I'd written, Tiff had an appropriately shocked Pikachu face and asked if Soup had known anything about my mysterious medical issues. For once, Spineless had followed directions and not shared private information with the world. I probably should have just escalated to corporate at this point, but I ended up not. Just wrote a nicely worded letter about how I'd requested ADA accommodations because anxiety technically can count as a disability. I'd already looked it up, and they'd done nothing. Stuck copies of the letter along with the write-up and a note from my doctor in Spineless's mailbox and the store's manager's mailbox. I should probably point out that by this point, about 4 other people had left the bakery due to medical conditions which were directly related to Tiff. They were legit medical conditions, but either exacerbated by her or used as an excuse to get away from her. So I certainly wasn't the first person to do this. Lo and behold, when you stuff enough legal terms along with relevant meeting recaps and dates into a letter, people do something about it. I had meetings with both the store manager, who insisted he had heard nothing about this, and Spineless, and they offered to get me out immediately, but asked if there was any possible way for me to stay through Christmas, which was about 2 weeks away. I didn't really want to be working a different area when everyone else was already crazy busy with no time to catch me up, so I agreed under the condition that they changed my schedule so that I was not scheduled with Tiff at any point in time. And what do you know? They got me out right after Christmas. So yeah, ask and ye shall receive, jerks. Hilariously enough, come February, Tiff went on vacation and the bakery supervisor asked me if there was any way I could come back to help cover, which of course I could do. Figured I might as well stick it in their face that the manager was the problem, not the department. Sadly, they didn't do anything about her until she transferred to a different store where she's no doubt still wreaking havoc. But I escaped with my sanity mostly intact, so it was a win for me. It would have been so much easier to get rid of Tiff. Stupid companies. And our next story. Crazy lady thinks every petrol station is the same. So for background, I live in the UK and not one petrol station, gas station for you US folk, that I've been to has a service where the employees fill your car. I'm wearing black joggers and My Hero Academia t-shirt with a gray jacket. Me is me and CL is crazy lady. So I've just pulled into a service on the motorway as I needed some air in my tires and a drink as I'm thirsty. So I parked my car next to the air pump and put air in my tires, locked the car, then walked towards the store itself. Just before I walk in, I noticed some oil on offer, and as my car was due a service soon, I decided I might as well whilst it's on offer. Just as I'm about to pick up, I feel a tap on my shoulder, I turn around and there's your typical CL with her arms folded and the glare that if it could kill, I would be dead on the spot. Me. Can I help you? CL. Yes, you need to fill my car. Me. Excuse me? This petrol station is self-service, as is the rest I've been to. CL. Don't give me that. I'll have you fired. Me, finally getting that she must think that I work here. Madam, I do not work here, just like you. CL interrupts and starts to raise her voice. I don't care. Fill my car. Me picks up the oil I wanted. No, I'm busy. And also, CL attempts to interrupt again. Me puts my hand up. Do not interrupt me. Firstly, I am not your slave. Secondly, this is self-service. You fill your own car. And thirdly, I do not help rude, obnoxious people like you. Now, good day. I walk into the store, pick up my drink and a flake, and go to the counter and pay for my goods. Good on you for cutting her off and shoving your own rudeness back in her face. It seems like when people try to be polite and de-escalate the situation, the Karens will double their crazy to try and bend reality to their will. And our last story. You towed our car while we were shopping. I used to work at a grocery store in a ski town. Our store was about a block off the main street. People would often park in our parking lot, walk to the main street, and take the bus to the ski area. We would get our main deliveries on Tuesday and Friday. In order to get the semi-trucks into the loading dock, we had to block off a small portion of the parking lot. This is the middle of ski season and the truck's late, so I'm asked to watch the parking lot to make sure people are not parking where they shouldn't be. A large SUV pulls up, somebody gets out, proceeds to move the cones, then tries to park. I tell them we're waiting for a delivery and if they could move their car out of the coned-off area. They literally moved their car one space and it was still in the coned-off area. I then see them leaving with all their ski gear. I walk back across the parking lot to ask them to move it again, but they're too far away from the store by this point. The delivery eventually arrives and we're forced to tow the car because the semi-truck can't get in now. Tow company arrives and takes away the car. We get the delivery parked and unloaded. About an hour later, we get a phone call asking for Mike. We have a couple employees named Mike, so I ask which Mike they're looking for. The guy screams, "The Mike who towed our car!" I tell them I'm going to find somebody to address their call. They speak to a manager and then come into the store still in their ski gear. They tell the manager they were towed while they were in the store shopping despite being caught red-handed due to their ski gear. They then decide to call the police. The police show up and basically tell them there's nothing they can do. They also mention the ski gear to the family. The police say the only thing they can do is give them a ride to the tow company lot to get their car. The family claimed we had an arrangement with the tow company. We never had an arrangement with them, and we only towed when it was a last resort. How much is convenient parking worth to you that you'll ignore someone who tells you you'll get towed? Hey guys, thank you for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.